Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am Silver the Hedgehog here, and we are from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of the Powerpuff Girls Him and Seek for the Game Boy Advance. So, last time, we've essentially managed able to got into the halfway point of the game, and because of that, we did somehow manage able to pick up for about 15 items so far for the sake of the forms of the scavenger hunt. So as a result, we're actually doing pretty well, despite there are some few issues from time to time, specifically with the pinball minigame. But apart from those side of things though, it actually did took us for about 3 attempts. So because of that, yeah, today for this video is that, speaking of which, we're also able to say this right now, we can pretty much guarantee we can able to finish the entire game already. So because of that, I think relatively speaking though, is that we're about to go ahead and explore through this particular jail cell. And as a result, we need to able to actually beat the likes of the forms of those people around here. And at least as far as I'm concerned, apart from the fact that we need to able to rescue those police cops, if you couldn't tell already. So once we're done with that, I believe something tells me is about the fact that something will happen if we do manage able to complete this particular objective. So because of that, yeah, there's not much else to say about this, I guess. It's just no matter what though, like we said this before, that this game is going to be really short. So because of that, although as soon as we get to the second the Powerpuff Girls game on the Game Boy Advance, it might be a little bit lengthy than the likes of the forms of how it does it for Him and Seek, but it might be still ultimately though it's going to be pretty short. So because of that, yeah, you probably know why I was going to be thinking about this anyway. So anyways though, so yeah, today's date of course there is the what is it today actually? I totally forgot. I think relatively speaking though, Silver, is that, well, today's date of course there is the 19th of November today, in some cases in 2023 today. I can't believe it's been 10 days ago since when, you know, the last and probably the final wave for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has been released. And as it turns out, that one thing I honestly forgot to mention about during the course of the forms of the Sonic Frontiers playthrough is that whenever we do manage able to get ourselves the last 2 final, or specifically though rather, is that we did somehow manage able to conclude everything in regards to the forms of the 3-star ranking system, as far as you probably already expect. That honestly though, the amount of attempts we actually did done is, surprisingly enough, 1 attempt with each and every single cup with the forms of those 3 classes respectively. Like, I don't count 50cc or 100 because technically that if you're trying to able to tackle through 150cc, if, assuming of course, if we do have ourselves the 3-star rankings, basically though is that potentially that if I do complete that particular 2 cups in 1, obviously though it should able to give us another 3 star rankings in between 50cc and 100cc respectively. So even then, now as far as I'm aware, like we stated this before, that it's surprisingly enough, it did took me about 1 attempt to able to actually complete it, the 3-star rankings, during the course of it, not only an Acorn Cup, but also on the Spiny Cup as well, within 150cc, 150cc Mirror, and most notably, 200cc. So because of that, yeah, surprisingly enough, yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about it, because I almost assume about for the fact that I was doing quite well on the first attempt, and I almost assumed for the fact that we're pretty much going to get ourselves a massive screw over during the course of Wii Rainbow Road. But as a result for that particular matter though, luckily I just got very lucky for able to actually deal with 1 attempt, for able to actually get that particular 3-star ranking. And I was very pleasantly satisfied for able to actually just try to able to accomplish something like this. However, what's the reward you do get if you do manage to able to rank up all 3 star rankings in each and every single cup in the game, with all the classes included? Well, the reward is sadly nothing. So because of that, it's just for bragging rights at the end. So because of that, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. But at the very least on the upside is though, is that, well, potentially speaking though, if you do manage to able to completely done everything for the booster course pass, you're able to actually access to these special staff credits, which, as a result, is actually very interesting, because concerning for the fact that, well, I'm probably not going to mention about this too much, mainly because concerning for the fact that it might actually contain some spoiler surprise if you do manage able to complete all of those cups throughout the game, specifically with 150cc, or 50cc, or 100cc, or 150cc, mirror, or 200cc. So, anyway, so we did somehow rescue the guards, as you can tell. So that way, we need to able to actually backtrack for a bit, and able to talk to one of the persons. So, despite the fact that we didn't pay attention to the forms of the text as much, because we just somehow got distracted by, you know what I'm saying, with the forms of that particular matter, though, we obviously keep on mentioning about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe a lot, because let me tell you something, out of all the actual Mario Kart games right now, is that, to me though, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is by far my favorite games of all time, which I will say this right now, because I will say is that a lot of people seem to able to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe a lot more than the forms of how it does it for Mario Kart Tour these days, mainly because despite the fact that the amount of content in Mario Kart Tour has been ended and concluded, so as a result, I could imagine for the fact that, well, imagine this, right, is that concerning for the fact that they might able to actually do a rerun of the New Year's Tour, well, despite the fact that it won't be able to contain 2024 glider, so because of that, I could imagine for the fact that, well, if that seems to be lacking for 2024 glider, well, as it turns out, it might able to actually close down the services or shut down the game or something approximately in the future. But then again, though, it's difficult to tell. Yeah, especially concerning for the fact that, after all, that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe actually has a nice little ending to it. So anyways, though, and every once in a while, during the course of this game, if you couldn't tell, we're actually going to be taking control of Mojo Jojo, and something very similar concept as the forms of Frogger, except this is all in reverse. So because of that, all we have to really do is basically we need to make our way through a few different segments from time to time, while trying to avoid a lot of traffic and also water. And on top of that, if you couldn't tell, we also need to avoid the Powerpuff Girls themselves. So, because every time whenever you do get touched by the forms of Blossom, Bubbles, or Buttercup, that also counts to fail. So because of that, and then once you make your way to the next screen, obviously the checkpoints will become active, and also the time resets. So that's something worth classifying for noticing this from a get-go. So yeah, it's kind of like Frogger, except, well, you play as Mojo Jojo, and it plays pretty much in a reverse way. So because of that, rather than just make your way to the very top of the level, or specifically just go from point A to point B, so naturally speaking though, we're actually going to be going into downwards, so... But anywho though, oh yeah, speaking of which though, is that one thing I honestly forgot to mention about this as well, is potentially speaking though, is that, well, happy 9th anniversary of the show's release of Sonic Boom, despite the fact that a lot of people seem to able to don't care about the series anymore, mainly because no matter what though, in the future Sonic games, it somehow goes into a positive note, thanks to the forms of Sonic Frontiers, and especially noticeable with any other games for that matter. So because of that, while looking back on Sonic Boom even today, I thought it was a really good show, but despite the fact that certain video games are pretty much average, like as a result, we already know the Wii U is an abomination, and as a result, the 3DS one is okay. Likely the first one and the second one, I think to me, the second 3DS installment is probably the better Sonic Boom game to me though. Clearly because, thank God, you don't have to deal with a lot of backtracking and stuff like that. And also in addition to that, despite the music is a bit underwhelming, but as a result of that particular matter though, I still classify for the fact that Sonic Boom Fire and Ice is definitely the better game of the two when it comes to the 3DS entries in the series, despite the lack of Shadow or the lack of Lyric, because I found Lyric to be pretty much a forgettable villain throughout the entire Sonic Boom community, which as a result, that's saying something. So yeah, I guess it's that. Yeah, and also for some reason, for my part, I never seemed able to stumble across into the Boom counterpart of myself. Well, the reason being for this point, Silver, is because of this poor reception of the video game tie-ins. So because of that, yeah, it's only me and Shadow to somehow manage to get the boom treatment, whilst unlike you, Silver, do not have a boom treatment. Well, unless if you want to search on DeviantArt, then you can obviously able to actually find out what your design might potentially try to look like, but believe me, what I'm saying is that you won't be missing that much. So yeah, I can honestly agree for that point. So I will admit, these sections are actually, I'm not gonna lie, it's actually pretty tricky, because every once in a while, if we come across into that particular submarine, it actually sunks. So because of that, we need to act fast in order to actually make our way to the next segment. So, but quite frankly though, Silver, is that we pretty much almost done. It's just about the fact that we need to avoid the last batch of traffic and stuff like that. It fills the brim with a lot of cars, buses, lorries. Oh jeez, Bubbles was on the road. Jesus Louise. But at the very least, we did somehow escape from here. But that was the only time we're going to be playing as Mojo Jojo in this game, because after this particular dialogue, basically though, we can go back and to take control of the Powerpuff Girls themselves. So, despite the fact that we've lost Blossom, because obviously we just keep on getting beaten up by the forms of certain enemies and stuff like that. But hopefully, once we do manage to able to stumble across into the fact that if we do manage to come across into a Chemical X, I believe it does manage to able to restore one of your Powerpuff Girls. So because of that, or revive them. So because of that, that's something we did somehow manage to able to correct that particular statement. So anyway, let's go up here to make our way to Mojo Jojo's lab. So because of that, well, of course, we need to beat these guys up, so just in case we can able to just make our way safe. So either way though, let's just go ahead and go in here, and from here we can able to actually just, oh, we need those pass keys in order to able to just actually access those different colored doors. So, and also I realized, Sonic, is that we did somehow manage to obtain the Boomerang. So because of that, I believe the Boomerang might be something related to the side quests. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of side quests, you know, so. But anyway though, oh yeah, there's also another thing I want to classify for mentioning about this as well. Thank God the actor strike is pretty much finished. So because of that, what happened was, it only lasted for about, well, it did somehow begin with the forms of the writer and the actor strike since in, let's just say in July 14th in this year. And thankfully, it did somehow recently became finished during the course of that particular strike moment ever since in the 9th of November, which is roughly exactly the same day as when Wave 6 of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe released. So, yeah, that seems pretty interesting, especially with perfect timing too, because, relatively speaking though, thankfully, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, does not get delayed at all, so because of that, we should be safe by then. So, yeah, it's just a matter of the forms of certain speculations for right now, of what exactly who's gonna voice Shadow at some point during the process of the forms of the Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie and stuff like that. Well, I suppose time will tell, Silver, especially concerning for the fact that we're still on, you know, 2023 still. So because of that, yeah, I'm very happy for the fact that the actual writer strike is now finally concluded. So because of that, yeah, and it seems to be more specifically though, is that it did somehow took us for about roughly 3 months or something like that when this happens. So yeah, I was expecting for the sake of time. So anyway though, so there's also another topic I want to point out, is that potentially speaking now, one thing I honestly forgot to mention about this either, from the likes of the forms of Sonic Frontiers as well, is that unfortunately though, the Marvel's movie did receive some pretty mixed reviews. So as a result, I'm not exactly sure what the box office is going to turn out to be for the sake of the forms of the Marvels, because unlike the forms of how it does it for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, did a massive success for this reception, including the box office earnings. So because of that, and relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I think we're going to be able to take a break on watching certain things related to Marvel things, until whenever we get a chance to able to see Echo for the sake of the forms of the Disney Plus exclusive. So that's as far as saying something. So, oh yeah, and speaking of Disney related, is that, well, I'm happy to report we actually got ourselves a teaser trailer for the likes of the upcoming Pixar movie that's going to be up until next year. That's what appears to be Inside Out 2. So because of that, all it shows from that particular teaser trailer, it shows us a brand new character that's going to be introduced in the game, or, what do I say game? I keep thinking about the forms of, something related to the other stuff worth noting for, which I will admit though, I apologize for this point, folks. But anyway, what I meant to say was, potentially speaking though, it is going to introduce into a brand new character in a film, which as a result is going to call it, anxiety. So because of that, meaning about the fact that you'd be anxious and stuff like that. So because of that, I'm curious to know what that particular character is going to hold up to, which I suppose we'll have to wait and find out until specifically next summer. But the only downside for this though is that it could be even unknown, predictable moments when it comes to likely trying to see the film in day one, because I think that is roughly the exactly same time as we're about to be going into the Super Nintendo world in Hollywood. So because of that, yeah, there might be a bit of a difficult situation for this point right now, especially concerning for the fact that no wonder why that one of those Pixar films in general that is going to be delayed, which appears to be Arlo. So because of that, yeah, it's no longer going to be releasing on 2024 because obviously it's now pushed back in 2025. So that's fair enough for our part, especially concerning for the fact that maybe they'll need to able to get some bit of time to develop for its script, alongside with the forms of how the structure of the film is going to place out to be. So chances are though, everything else will be pretty much accounted for the sake of the forms of certain filming releases during that period. So, and in fact, I'm actually really looking forward to see how Inside Out 2 is going to place out to be. So let us know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you guys excited able to watch Inside Out 2 until specifically next summer? Because surely I am, because obviously joy is back, as well as the forms of sadness, anger, disgust, fear, and all that stuff. So everything else will be pretty much expected. I'm not exactly sure if they might able to actually bring the villain into the table, but I highly doubt. I don't think Ping Pong is probably not going to make it this time around. I'm presuming so anyway. So, anyways, here we go. Face off against with Mojo Jojo as the next boss fight applies. So basically though, we need to able to deal with those arms, and basically that's essentially how you can deal with this first phase. And then once you're done with that, you can pretty much guarantee what the next phase is going to be like. Well, basically though, we can able to take on the entire body of the robot itself. So because of that, yeah, relatively an easy fight. So there's nothing else to the challenge. So, but I digress. Oh, and speaking of movies though, is that one thing we honestly forgot to mention about this either. Well, The Legend of Zelda, the movie, is going to happen. But here's the catch though, is potentially speaking though, it's going to be most likely going to be on live action. So because of that, I can assure to you it might actually get ourselves a different producer or something. Well, it's kind of hard to tell because it's currently on development at the moment, so I'm very curious to check it out once that film becomes reality. So, yeah, because after seeing the Super Mario Bros. Movie, so I'm very curious to know what the live-action movie of The Legend of Zelda is going to be like. So, it's kind of difficult to tell what the plot is going to be based off from, even though some people seem to say maybe it could be based off from Ocarina of Time or something like that. I don't know about you, Sonic, because, again, it's all about speculation, and on top of that, it's still in the development, as you probably already expect. So because of that, yep, it looks like that we've almost done, so it looks like we've only got 7 scavenger hunt items left, until we basically fully 100% everything for the sake of the forms of the Powerpuff Girls, him and Seek. So because of that, so let's go ahead and talk to this kid over there, and basically we get ourselves a football card. So because of that, I think we can probably able to actually trade it to someone else. So, you know, think of like the forms of how it does it for item trading system from the likes of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, except the fact that you can able to actually just do like, well, fly and stuff like that, rather than walking on foot. So, that's saying something. So, Oh, and also, every once in a while, the enemies do respawn, so because of that, just keep this in mind. So, anyways though, it looks like we do need a notebook, but we haven't exactly found that yet. So, even then, I think there might be some kits that we do need to do some item trading. So, because of that, well, exponentially speaking, we got ourselves an apple, and also we got ourselves the baseball card. So, yeah, that's actually something. So, anyways though, there's also another thing I want to discuss on this as well, is that recently, the Nintendo Switch Online subscription services has recently reached 38 million paid subscribers worldwide. So, it's actually getting pretty good, especially concerning for the fact that at this point in time, that the reason why it's doing pretty well, because they obviously going to be playing not only online, on the Nintendo Switch games, but also with the forms of playing some good old classic retro games during the course of the actual subscription services, and you can also play online with it too. Most notably with Nintendo 64, like as a result that a lot of people are still playing Mario Party 3 right now. So I suppose the only thing is left now in terms of selections of Nintendo 64 games for the NSR expansion pack, and we keep on about this, is that maybe next up it will be Banjo-Tooie, Donkey Kong 64, Diddy Kong Racing, Super Smash Bros. That's the obvious one, but it's pretty difficult to tell, because as far as I'm concerned, that I believe, if I recall correctly, that the Nintendo Wii does have the ability to able to play not only one, but 3 different Super Smash Bros. Games, because as far as I'm aware, for the original game, because of the forms of the Virtual Console surfaces or something like that, and on top of that, with the Melee, because of the forms of the backwards compatibility with GameCube stuff, assuming, of course, if you do manage to able to still have the original Nintendo Wii model, as opposed to the Family Edition or the Wii Mini, because the Wii Mini is pretty much lacking with unique features, aside from the fact that it plays pretty much like the Nintendo GameCube with all that particular clamshell, you know, open disc thing design. So because of that, not much explanations for the sake of time, so, but that's saying something. So at least we got ourselves the paper airplane, so at the very least we do somehow manage to able to obtain that. And once again, that Blossom is now got beaten, so... And sometimes, I will admit though, much like the forms of how it does it on Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link, it can be kind of unfair when it comes to damage output if you're having a discussion with someone, likely also if you're trying to talk to one of the townspeople. Basically those is that you will get hit during the process of the actual text box while the enemies still keep on hurting you. So yeah, it's kind of similar to my personal perspective from the likes of Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link, where if I pick up something up like the heart container or any items for that matter, basically though it is so unfair that I somehow managed to get hit quite a number of times during the forms of this particular, or for that matter, this unpredictable enemy attacks. So yeah, that seems very stingy, you know. But regardless of everything else though, Silver, luckily though, this game does not have limited amount of lives, so because of that, you should feel right at home, unlike any forms of how it does it on, you know, Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link does have the life system, so because of that. Oh, and from what I've heard, Silver, you are gonna be busy just trying to able to grind as many of those experience points on off-screen from the likes of Zelda 2, aren't you? Why, yes, because I seriously really don't able to actually just to go ahead and try to tackle for the last thing while I'm pretty much almost under-leveled. So, that's what I was expecting for this point. So, yeah, that's as far as we can able to actually just to point things out for the sake of the forms of what is going on and stuff like that. So, anyway though, oh yeah, there's also another thing I want to classify for mentioning about this as well, is that, potentially speaking though, it looks like the Peanuts is actually getting a new animated movie at some point in the future. And I think, unfortunately though, the only downside to this though, is going to be most likely it's going to be exclusive to Apple TV+. So because of that, yeah, that could be a problem. Especially, for what I've seen the screenshots of the film, so far for its concept art. I'm pretty sure the actual concept art is going to be most likely, well, the visual style might look a bit similar to the forms of how it does it for the Peanuts movie back in 2015, except the notable differences this time is that it may look like the different developers is going to be working on it or something like that. Well, again, it's all about speculation as to be expected, so because of that, yeah, it seems kind of unfortunate for the fact that the Marvels, is now onto the next list for the sake of the forms of the lowest rated MCU ratings, next to, you know, the Secret Invasion alongside with Eternals, and worst of all out of them all though, it appears to be by the forms of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, just because, well, I've got no words. So, but at least on the positive side of things though, is that potentially speaking though, that we're actually going to be getting ourselves, well, recently, during the forms of this weekend actually, we're able to actually come across into yet another Splatoon 3 Splatfest, and except the fact that this time around, it appears to be by the forms of based off from, let's just say, one of those 3 attributes, which are handshake, fist bump, and hug. So, yeah, that's what I can really say about this as well, I suppose. So, anyway, so every once in a while though, if you couldn't tell already, we accidentally managed able to trigger something. And that's mainly because we actually going to be ended up in the forms of, well, this lava environment. And also keep this in mind though, Silver. Oh, what is it? What is it, Sonic? Despite the fact that I just keep on getting hit by these lava stuff, is that potentially speaking though, sometimes this level is a maze, so because of that, you need to figure out the correct path, and then if you choose the wrong path, it just goes into a bit of a loop. So because of that, thankfully, as soon as you're able to watch this particular playthrough for this point, guys, well, I'm pretty much going to have to show you guys the true path that you can able to actually go into, so yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about this. And I think, relatively speaking, that's as far as we can able to actually discuss upon during the forms of certain news, conversations and like, especially considering for the fact that, like we said this before, this playthrough is not going to take too long. So, and apparently though, there's one little mistake I did somehow point things out ever since in yesterday's video. That wasn't technically the last time we actually played something related to on the Game Boy Advance, because currently both Mighty and Ray are still both playing Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3 after all, and as a result, no matter what though, like we said this before, they are both almost finishing up the entire playthrough of the entire Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3 already, so concerning for the fact that the entire length is kind of shortish, but either way though, I've got no words to think about it, so, and yeah, as it turns out, we choose the wrong path for about a few seconds ago. Oh, and be very careful of these spikes at the top, by the way, because they will try to hurt you, so, and at this point, you also don't able to actually keep on getting hit by the forms of those, lava rocks or anything else like that, but luckily, if you try to able to pull off a laser attack, or specifically the actual fist punches, thankfully though, you can able to protect yourself with it. Specifically, if you try to attack the forms of something lava related, well, you're pretty much going to be safe, assuming of course you have to deal with the forms of that particular timing input, so, but even then though, regardless of everything else though, this particular segment is pretty much the hardest aspect, but I found it's not so much of an issue, just because thankfully the checkpoints are super generous, and on top of that, assuming if you do manage to choose the correct path, which pretty much leads us to the continuation portion of the level, well, basically you feel right at home. So either way, I believe we have to go for this for about 3 different segments or something, and if I recall correctly, there is that particular scavenger hunt item we do need to get if you try to go for a true 100% completion, so yeah, that's saying something, so. And also, not to mention though, you have to deal with the auto-scrolling segment too, so because of that, also, just don't get crushed by the way, because if you get crushed or squashed, basically though, not only you lose one of your Powerpuff Girls members, but also for the fact that you have to restart the entire segment again. Well, not all the way back, but just one of those segments in particular. So, yeah, unfortunately Bubbles has got knocked down, so, as well as Buttercup as well, so Blossom is the only ones left, so, But then again though, Sonic, as you said this before, the checkpoints are super generous, so I believe this is the, I don't know about you, maybe this is the last portion or something? Mind you, I haven't exactly paid attention to the forms of the layout, because, well, as far as we've already stated this earlier, wait, I see the bath. Well, yes, Silver, because as it turns out, there is this particular item, as we mentioned earlier, and as a result, we somehow obtained the rubber ducky, so, yeah, I guess it's that. So, and this is where things gets a little bit difficult, because, like we said this before, if you choose the wrong path, like we just did right there, on the third and final segment, before we hit on to the next boss, basically though, we need to do a massive guess, so because of that, yeah, this might take a bit while, especially considering for the fact that obviously we have to rely on the phones, the auto-scrolling parts here and there. But again though, if we made our way to the next boss, obviously the checkpoints will be active during the course of that particular boss fight coming up, so... But yeah, I'm a little bit skeptical when it comes to the forms of how the fact that, like we said this before, that the Legend of Zelda movie is happening, but on the live-action format, which I'm a little bit mixed on, but I'm very curious to know what that's going to be all about. So because of that, also let us know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you guys excited, able to hopefully get a chance to see the Legend of Zelda live-action movie once that particular film is happening? Or in some cases though, that particular movie is in development, so... But I'm very curious though, and also a little bit more optimistic as well. So, anyway, so we meet with him. Yeah, I'm not joking, that's his name by the way, so we have him. So, with him, it's pretty much gonna be a pretty tricky fight. Mainly because, obviously, if you're not too predictable for that particular attacks, especially considering for the fact that, as you can tell, he loves to teleport at one point. And I get the feeling we might die on this fight, just because, well, as you can tell, we keep on getting hit by a lot of hazards, you know, ranging from fireballs, as well as molten rocks, and you name it. So, either way, yep, there goes Blossom. So, either way, oh jeez, he's actually gone into a strange transformation there, and we also come across into another death, so... But that's okay, because like we said before, checkpoints are quite frequent, so in some cases though, let's see if we can able to do a much more better attempt faced up against with him, so... But yeah, there's not much else to this guy. I mean, he may look a bit intimidating though, what if you do manage to able to see him throughout, but either way though, that's as far as we can able to discuss on that front, so... And exponentially speaking though, is that it's a good thing, you know, we somehow managed to give up playing Mario Kart Tour now, just because, well, I can see why a lot of people found this to be the most unpopular Mario Kart games now. And I will admit though, I will do apologize for Super Mario Kart, because it does have some very good starting points, especially considering for the fact that that was the introduction to the forms of the series, but I will admit though, still Mario Kart Tour is now my least favorite Mario Kart game I've ever played. Mainly because of its frustrating controls, as well as a lot of emphasis on gotcha moments, and especially noticeable with the forms of a lot of cash grabs you have to put up with, and, well, a lot of like grinding things, so, which I found was a little bit tedious for me. So, personally speaking though, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is now my favorite Mario Kart game I've ever played, next to, you know what I'm saying, let's just say Mario Kart Wii, Mario Kart DS, and pretty much any other Mario Kart game for that matter, so... But yeah, that's as far as we can able to actually describe about any of those things, so... Anyways though, so let's just go ahead and, okay, I'm actually going to be selecting no, because apparently though, we are still missing something here, so if you want to go for yes, then by all means you can do that, but ultimately though, we're obviously going to be aiming for the true 100% completion of this entire playthrough of the game, so as a result, it doesn't take that long to able to actually get to the last point of the game, so... Okay, so there's nothing in here, so we can able to just search around and every once in a while just skip those enemies for the time being, just in case you can't be bothered able to actually beat them anymore, just because, well, we're basically done with them. So, And also, we need to able to consider to keep on talking to most of the townspeople just in case if you're missing something. So it's always important to know that you always have to do that, just in case if you really want to look for something for this matter. Well, by all means. So, okay, so at least as far as I'm aware, that if I recall correctly, we need to make our way back to the forms of well, at least as far as I'm concerned, well, first of all, we need to grab certain hearts, so just in case we don't able to die again. So, yeah, because on the upside is though, Silver, is that you can able to fly as high as you can. So, meaning about the fact that you can able to avoid a lot of enemies, as you can tell, which is always pretty handy in my book. So, anyway, so we've almost there now, so... Oh yeah, there's that cat as what this old woman was on about. So, thankfully we did somehow found a cat, and as a result, we can able to get ourselves yet another item, which appears to be by the forms of a notebook. So, now we can able to actually go back into the forms of Pokey Oaks, as far as I'm concerned, and basically we can able to receive yet another item. So because of that, and well, relatively speaking, we got ourselves a picture. So I believe, relatively speaking, though, we've only just got about one more you know, scavenger hunt item left, which appears to be the newsletter, or should I say a newspaper of any sorts. But again, it does manage to require us to able to actually do a lot of backtracking sometimes if you're missing on something. Well, obviously, for the fact no matter what though, I almost assume for the fact that we can able to actually briefly win through this, but most of the time, much like Zelda Link's Awakening, it's all about item trading, you know. So let's go back to the museum for the final time, and just because of that though, we need to deliver the picture to that particular guard over towards all the way to this particular spot. So, and once we're done with that, we can able to obtain the lost wallet. And what can we do with that, if you're probably wondering? Well, basically, there was that random person that just somehow showed up, at least almost in front of the forms of the museum. Well, because believe it or not, as soon as we leave the museum, well, there he is right here. And let me just double check. Yeah, I think we basically got this. So because of that, if you talk to him and deliver the lost wallet, and basically we got every single scavenger hunt items in the game. So yeah, that's the 400% completion of the game, folks. I mean, if you think we've done here, well, as it turns out, there's going to be a plot twist that's going to be involved in this, which as a result, even though it might be a bit tricky to explain of any of those things, so yeah, let's just go ahead and head back into the forms of Pokey Oaks nursery school, and basically we can able to actually done with the scavenger hunt. So yeah, it does seem pretty fast, kind of thinking about it, especially considering for the fact that despite we had to do some bit of side quests, you know, and we'll talk to her, and yes, we're able to select yes, and once you do get all 25 items, we're able to grant ourselves the first prize. So because of that, and every once in a while, it seems that him is up to something. So because of that, yeah, there's not much else explanations for the sake of the forms of this particular plot twist is going to be involved. Well, assuming so anyway. But either way, no matter what though, that we're pretty much gonna have to able to get ourselves the, well, first of all, I need to, like, press the A button here. And relatively speaking though, we are the #1 of the forms of the scavenger hunt. So, kudos to the Powerpuff Girls. So, great job. So, in some cases though, yeah, I believe if you do manage to deliver the lesser amounts of items, I believe you get yourselves the second trophy or the third trophy or something like that. Well, it's kind of difficult to tell. And oh, look who it is. We got ourselves these familiar foes from the previous boss fight. So we have Mojo Jojo, Fuzzy, alongside with Princess, and him. So, yeah, that's a bit of a odd coincidence to be able to meet up with those guys again. So, yeah, something tells me we need to beat those guys again, except now it does manage to take place in front of the Powerpuff Girls' house. So, Yeah, and no matter what though, Silver, is that whenever I did my practice playthrough of this game in particular, for the love of God, my game keep on crashing. So because of that, thankfully we did somehow save the game just in case we weren't able to get the actual thing to crash again. Although, by the way, that was the only time you're going to be able to save the game, by the way. Because if you pause the game, and then if you select save game, that's essentially going to be able to be settled with. So, yeah, basically we need to refight against with the forms of not only Princess, but also Fuzzy, and Mojo Jojo, and him, all in one go. But relatively speaking though, again, those guys are a total cakewalk. So because of that, again, there's nothing else to the challenge with these guys. So, I suppose, no matter what though, I think we should probably discuss upon our final thoughts of the Powerpuff Girls, him and Seek. It was actually a pretty good time. Not the greatest game, but I will admit though right away though, it certainly is a good one, despite it was pretty short. And on top of that, it's pretty easy too, so considering for the fact that much like the similar aspects of certain My Little Pony games, specifically, let's just say, Harmony Quest and Rainbow Runners, obviously the game is going to be pretty ridiculously short. And also, not only that, it's actually really easy too. So because of that, yeah, not much else explanations for the sake of the forms of that particular aspect, but we'll still say this, is that the graphics in this game looks really, really good, and it matches the actual source material very nicely, especially concerning for the fact that the Game Boy Advance is actually way more cooler than the forms of how it does it for the Game Boy Color, at least to me anyway. So, yeah, with that said, the game is done, and with that being said, that was it. The game is finished. And believe it or not, the development of the game is by Vicarious Visions, which that was, I would say before or after Crash Bandicoot The Huge Adventure was also being made by Vicarious Visions. So yeah, that's actually pretty interesting, all things considered. So kudos to that particular developer, by the way. So, yeah, you can probably able to recommend give this game a try, especially concerning for the fact that if you are a huge fan of the Powerpuff Girls, then by all means you can able to try the game out. So relatively speaking though, that's not much else to say. So because of that, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching about Let's Play of the Powerpuff Girls, Him and Seek for the Game Boy Advance. So up next, it will be the Powerpuff Girls, Mojo Jojo, and Go-Go also for the Game Boy Advance. Except the actual gameplay style plays a little bit differently, so as a result, we pretty much got to tackle for that next, until on Tuesday and Thursday respectively. So, this is me, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Silver the Hedgehog here. Until then, see you guys then. Bye!